Thank you for tuning in to another edition of The Cold Hard Truth. Make sure to check Facebook for showtimes and more information and the latest news at CaymanMarlRoad.com. Subscribe to our IG and Facebook pages to get the latest happenings. You're now tuned in to The Cold Hard Truth, Cayman's #1 hard-hitting live podcast show, where we feature some straightforward conversations on political, social, and celebrity news and all things happening in the Cayman Islands and around the world. This show was created to give the people a voice and a means of being involved and informed without any filters. Sometimes it gets crazy, but we always keep it real. We bring you the tea, piping hot, so grab your favorite beverage and join the conversation via WhatsApp at 324-1612. Email tips at CaymanMarlRoad.com. Now, here's your host, Sandy Hill, broadcasting live from the beautiful Cayman Islands.
All right. Good morning, folks. Good morning. Isn't it beautiful to be able to hear me? Now, let me just make some adjustments here because I feel like my head is way too big for the camera. And that may be a whole other issue, folks. Give me one quick second here. I'm just going to pull out of the stream. All right, I think that is definitely better. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Soon, I'm going to have a permanent solution for all of these bits and pieces that I have to do every single day. So first of all, thank you guys so much. I want to apologize for last night. Okay, so I want to apologize for last night because we did, it was actually a pre-recorded stream. And when we pushed it through to Facebook, unfortunately, in advance of that, I had totally forgotten to mic up. And of course, as a result, there was absolutely zilch or zero audio, and that was not good. So we're going to have to be doing it again. Oh my goodness. Good morning, Evelyn. Good morning, Louie. Romeen is here for it. Jake, good morning, Sunshine. Good morning, Sophia, and everyone else that's tuned in. Just drop me a message. Good morning, Morna. Someone said to me the other day, let me just grab my water, that they're always tuned in, sorry, to the morning show, and I'm never saying good morning to them. And so I was trying to explain to them that what happens is if you don't actually, the screen that I'm looking at, if you don't actually comment, I don't see you. So I'm not watching it through Facebook. So that's why I only give shout outs normally to people who do take the time to say good morning, because then I see that they're actually here. So it would require me opening up another tab, which sometimes I do if I have any issues about the audio or anything like that. I need to check it. I might just open the feed to kind of check it from there. But yes, thank you guys so much. I was so surprised last night that despite the fact that we had no audio, most of you remained tuned in and continue to watch. Good morning, Olivia. I thought, wow. I liked the jokes about how the additional appearance, additional little touch of makeup had some people so uh, in tune to what was happening. But apparently they didn't need audio. They were still very much here for it. So that was a bit of a joke, and I thought it was hilarious. So I do want to, excuse me. Oh my gosh. I do want to have the conversation this morning about what I was actually discussing. And, I woke up to seeing more headlines. Gosh, my apologies. Got a frog in my throat. I woke up this morning to seeing more headlines about the LGBTQ situation. Colors Cayman is one of the LGBT groups on the Cayman Islands. There's more than one group. And that group, Billy Bryan, is apparently the Compass interview. I haven't read the Compass interview, so I'm just going off the headline, to be honest, where basically they have said, or she has said, that the, here comes Coco, folks. Can I tell you, Coco went on a walkabout again this morning. Give me one quick second. Let's support our local businesses, Miracle Brokers. While I grab Coco, I need to go open up the front door for her and let her in. So I'll be right back after these messages.
Miracle Brokers International is a shipping, moving, and logistics company. You get all our expertise in one stop. Our motto is shop, ship, and save. All shipments are important to MBI and will track your items during shipment, clear through customs on arrival, and deliver to your door. MBI will spend the time in lines to get your cargo for you so you can be more productive with your time. Miracle Brokers, the solution broker. 345-925-5989 or miraclebrokers.com.
All right, folks, thank you so much. Yes, so Madam Coco has returned. Yes, Irvelyn said that you guys hung in there because I look so good. Buenos dias, Elizabeth. Kizzy, good morning, my friend. How are you guys? So I saw the headline only because some of my Facebook acquaintances reshared it, and they were not saying very nice things at all about the fact that Colors Cayman was essentially indicating that they thought that the commissioner owed the LGBTQ community an apology. Now, this is a bit of an interesting situation because I am a little bit confused myself, and I'm trying to work my brain around what the commissioner has said and what he is alleged to have said. So CNS did a story where they basically indicated that the commissioner, having spoken to them, told them that comments made in a group, a so-called Christian group, and we're going to get to some of those comments here in a second, because I can't think of any less Christian or Christ-like comments ever. And we're going to, walk through some of those. Those comments were not a hate crime or something to that effect. So let me just try to pull it up here, because in response to that article, there's been a lot of back and forth, a lot of commentary. And in fact, quite ironically, the commissioner, which is a little bit unusual, has issued a statement indicating that Wendy Ledger and Cayman News Service got it wrong. Now, I'm surprised that he said that, to be honest, because normally, they only tell us that we get things wrong. Like if it was us, it would have been a national press conference. I say these things in jest, but in all honesty, there is a lot of truth to it. It would have been a national emergency. Had we been the ones to get something wrong, the police would have been calling the press, calling the National Guard, like calling the army, call somebody in Jamaica. Let's get on it. But in terms of Cayman News Service, he simply issued a press release saying that he was asking them to correct their statements because they had gotten the story completely wrong. As far as I know, Wendy Ledger doesn't share his view, and she will not be correcting her story. So it's a little bit tricky, but he says that he was misquoted, and I'm just going to pull up the article here, and that isn't exactly what he said, right? So the police statement, I'm going to share this link with you guys, basically said he's asking CNS to correct the story on the LGBT comments that he supposedly made in light of these messages that came out of the group. So what I want to say is this. Listen, good morning, beautiful Siobhan, Cecile. Thank you so much for tuning in. If it is the case that the commissioner was misunderstood, and listen, this sort of thing happens all the time. That's why sometimes I say to people, send me your quote in writing, because it is incredibly easy to sometimes think you've heard X, and maybe the person actually said X.1. So you were close, but you misunderstood. We're all human beings, and God knows, with the best of intentions, it happens. So if we accept, and I'm sure Wendy would not be lying on the police, I'm sure this is just some sort of a genuine mistake. It happens. If the police commissioner comes back to her and says, listen, you've got it wrong, you've misunderstood what I said. What I actually said was this, and you have said something else. Or maybe the commissioner is the one who's misunderstanding what she is actually saying. It's entirely possible that he's reading her article, and we have to choose a headline, right? And we choose headlines in a particular way. And sometimes there are limitations in terms of headlines. And sometimes a headline is chosen to elicit a little bit more of a response. We know that this is how it works. And it is what it is. So if there's some sort of a miscommunication, obviously he's attempted to correct it by saying, that isn't quite what I said, and this is what I meant, right? Then if Wendy sticks by her point that, nope, that's not what I understood you to say, and I'm assuming that Wendy would have gotten it in writing, knowing the type of person that Wendy is, she's not often going to make a phone call. She'd probably send an email. So the headline with Cayman News Service says hate speech about hanging gay people in a loving way, exposing the sexuality of those attending a fundraiser for a new LGBT awareness group, and comments about deporting LGBT people, which are proliferating on social media. Sorry. Oh my gosh. Excuse me. Where's my tissue? It's a very long first sentence, first of all, Wendy. The first sentence kind of was too long for me, and maybe that's why the commissioner's confused. But it says, They do not yet rise to the level of a crime, Police Commissioner Derek Baines has said. However, the RCAPS is keeping watch on these comments and will act if threats are made against individuals. Now, I'm going to tell you what I think. Thank you, Lisa. I'm going to tell you what I think is happening here from a legal perspective that would explain a lot of this, right? Good morning to the beautiful Andrea and Lisa. Thank you so much for tuning in. She's wondering if I'm celebrating Honduras Independence Day. I am not, but I can pretend that I am. So happy Honduras Independence Day. How do we say that in Spanish, Lisa? Help me out here. Write it down so we can say, I don't know, do we say feliz something? I don't know how you'd say happy Independence Day. But to all of our Honduran friends and family members, absolutely happy Honduras independence. So the commissioner then issued a statement saying, he had some concerns about what was said in this article. And he seeks to clarify that he wasn't saying, well, let me tell you what he said. He's not saying that hate speech is not criminal, which isn't what I just read. So again, this is maybe we're missing a little bit of, it's like we're both on the same road, but we're slightly in a different lane here, right? So her title, he says, LGBTQ hate speech not criminal, is incorrectly represented and distorted. And that CNS has been formally notified of the concerns of the RCAPS and corrections requested. The article stated that numerous hate speech comments made on social media about an LGBTQ community fundraiser and the community were not yet criminal, according to the police commissioner. However, the commissioner said the published headline referring to the commissioner of police's position on hate speech was incorrectly represented and distorted. It is important to note that the commissioner of police did not mention hate speech separately or collectively in any responses, nor did he say that hate speech in the general sense is not a criminal act as suggested by the local media publication. In a response to a query from the local media publication, aka CNS, in relation to specific messages being circulated in a group text, the commissioner stated that in context where those particular comments were concerning and potentially problematic, the specific comments being queried were not in breach of the penal code, as they were not implicit or explicitly directed to any specific person. Now, this is where having a little bit of, I think, legal knowledge really helps to clarify exactly what's going on here. So the point being, and I get what he's saying about the headline, because our headline did say LGBT hate speech not criminal. Technically, I see the commissioner's point, and I also see why Wendy may have used that headline, because that headline doesn't explain everything. You then need to read her entire article for the headline to make sense. And I know of all people that oftentimes what happens is people will read just the headline, maybe the first sentence if you're lucky, more, I don't want to say intelligent people, because a lot of intelligent people don't read past the second line. People who are interested in the topic will read further down and ascertain what the story is all about. And there are times when it's really hard to capture and summarize what the entire article is about in just a headline. So I do agree with the police commissioner that if you were looking at this headline in isolation, didn't bother to read everything in the article, you would have been woefully misguided by the headline, because he wasn't saying, generally speaking, that hate speech is not criminal. What he said was those particular comments in that chat conversation, of what he can see, did not come up that far. And one of the reasons why is for it to be in breach of the penal code, it would have to be directed at a specific individual and not an entire community. And this makes total sense because there are things that are required. In order for you to, here's the article here, there's a screenshot of it. So there are things that are required in order for you to even make a threat against someone. So a lot of people think, right, it's just, I've always found it strange where people don't know the elements of certain offenses, right? So in order for you to make a threat or hate speech against someone, it actually has to be directed at an individual. So these comments they're hateful for sure, but they were not directed at any one person. So had they been directed at, say, Billy, heaven forbid, of Colors Cayman, if they'd been directed at me from CMR, or anybody, now, whether or not we have appropriate legislation in this country for hate speech, and hate speech is when you say things, that to that individual, or you do things to that individual, so hate crime, because of a group that they are a part of. So whether or not it's because of the color of my skin, or because, someone's a member of the LGBT community, or what else could be an example? Someone is from like a certain political party or district, all those things technically could amount to hate speeches. Now, I don't know that we have enough on the books in that particular area. And I think that that will be an area that is, as we continue to have this discourse and this conversation, will most certainly develop, because we see there is a lot of hate speech out there. So I do believe that that is exactly what the commissioner was saying, that these particular comments do not amount to hate speech or not hate speech, but a crime within the penal code, because they're not directed at any specific person. And that is one of the elements that would be required for it to be an offense. Okay. I'm sure that's the case because our legislation probably hasn't envisioned general hate speech like against a community. Now, last night, if you tuned in, what I was actually talking about, despite the fact that you could not hear me, was looking at some of these comments that were made. And I want to spend some time this morning. I'm really disappointed that we have to even continue to have this discourse. However, it is necessary. It is necessary for good people to not sit back and see evil done or evil said and do nothing about it. I cannot accept anyone hating another person in this community that they know nothing about simply because they are a member of the LGBT community. Because the day that I accept that sort of thinking, then I also accept that you can hate me simply because the color of my skin, and you can go around saying whatever you want, and that would be okay. So I've just had a question on WhatsApp that I'll address before I start looking at some of the comments. So this person has said, what I don't understand is if I am as a man, called a woman certain epithets, I can be charged for insulting the modesty of a woman. Why shouldn't we have laws protecting people in the LGBT community from being called certain epithets or saying that they deserve to be shot? I get what you're saying about hateful speech versus hate speech, though. So again, when a person is charged with insulting the modesty of a woman, it is said to someone specific. So if someone walks up to me and calls me a bitch or something worse than that, because to me that's not, I'm like, okay, if you call me that, it's really not a big deal. Because it is directed at a specific individual, then that becomes an offense. So that's where the difference is, right? If I randomly, it's kind of like this. Let me give you another analogy. If I randomly walk around making threats, but to nobody in particular, that's not against the law. I mean, if I stand up to the tree and I make a threat to an inanimate object, such as a tree, that's not against the law. I could say, I'm going to blow you up, Mr. Tree, because I don't like Julie mangoes and you're a Julie mango tree. Well, that's not a criminal offense, actually. Now, maybe if I did it and I caused property damage, it wasn't my tree, or, there could be other things that I might be looking at. But in order for an offense to have occurred when it comes to like threats, it has to be directed at an individual, not so much a group of persons. Does that make any sense? And this is where I think you have to look at what offenses are available currently in the penal code. So the question of whether or not an individual group is entitled to additional protections because of who they are does become an interesting point. So do we now change legislation to make this an offense? And I think the point that the Premier is making is that currently it is not an offense. But of course, this has kicked off a chain reaction of discussion on this. And so let me just see if I can find the comments here. So there were a lot of comments on this topic, right? Yes. So let me show you guys what others in the community have been saying on this. And of course, we know that these members of the community are anti-LGBTQ anyway, so we should not be surprised that they took offense to this headline by the Compass. It's kind of one of those things right now where I do feel like both sides need to take a little bit of a breather. The commissioner has said, listen, the Cayman News Service got it wrong. That's not what I was saying. I was not generally saying that hate speech against that community will not amount to a crime. I'm saying that the messages that I've seen, because they're not directed at anyone specifically, do not meet the requirements of the current offenses that we have. If I were the LGBT community, and I know a lot of you haters out there want to claim that I'm a member, and I'm not a member, but if you want to label me as that, I honestly don't care. My response to this would not have been to stir the pot. And I know that's shocking and unbelievable because people probably think that I stir the pot all the time. But this is what happens. And I'll tell you why I would not have stirred the pot. So this headline now in Luke Cayman, and again, I'm pretty sure that Colors Cayman did not indicate what the headline could have been. Newspapers pick their own headlines. So it says Colors Cayman demands apology from the police commissioner. And of course, the word demands comes with a certain connotation. Now, I don't know if Billy from Colors Cayman is actually demanding an apology or not. Let me just go to Loop. It's loopcayman.com. Let me just go to their website and read the article, because again, if you read just a headline, you could be misled by that headline. So let us see what the actual article says, because using the term demands is a very strong word, admittedly, and you can get easily offended by such a term. Yes? Now, this is weird. Why is Luke Cayman's website partly in another language? Up at the top, it has some foreign language thing popping up about a Toyota. And I don't know what language this is in, but it looks like maybe one of the Swedish or something, one of those European kind of Finnish, Swedish languages. It's really weird. Let's see if I can find. Okay. Here we go. Okay, it says a Cayman-based Facebook page. I didn't even know they had a Facebook page. An allegedly affiliated WhatsApp group entitled Caribbean Cause that appears to have connections from throughout the region, with a profile and cover image of a man blowing a ram's horn as of September the 14th, known in Hebrew as a shofar. I don't know if that's pronounced properly, and used to symbolize a declaration of war, has been generating fears and concerns surrounding hate speech, anti-LGBTQ. There's something else in here. IA plus. I don't even know what the rest of that means. So clearly I need to educate myself. Propaganda and inciting violence against the community in the Cayman Islands. Folks, that is one sentence. Whenever I write like this, because sometimes I'm guilty of this myself, I look at the sentence and I go, why is my sentence so long? I need to go back and try to find a way to be more concise and make it 2 sentences. So that's what the first sentence here says. All right. Let's move on and see what else the article says. So we need to see what Billy actually said, right? So it goes on about what the page says. We're going to get into some of that here in a minute. Leaked screenshots from the WhatsApp group. We're going to talk about that. And it takes a while to, okay, so it talks about the police commissioner. It takes a while to get to what Billy actually said. Okay, so all the way down, this is a very lengthy article, by the way, very lengthy. So all the way down, we finally get to what Billy says. So it says, Colors Cayman referred to Section 88A of the Cayman Islands Penal Code, which indicates that a criminal offense may have been committed if threatening, abusive, or insulting words are used in a public or private place, including in writing, that cause harassment, alarm, or distress, commits an offense and is liable to imprisonment for 3 years, or if the offense is committed in the night, to imprisonment for 4 years. Okay. Colors Cayman suggested that Commissioner Burns' words could be construed as criminal, and that's in quotes, and went on to say that by his negligence, the commissioner, hopefully unintentionally, has risked giving the green light for people to harass, alarm, and distress an already marginalized community without any criminal consequences. And that brushing off the use of anti-LGBTQ, whatever the rest of those letters are, plus rhetoric, its actions are irresponsible, highly dangerous, and belittling, calling for a thorough police investigation of the evidence provided. Okay. Then Billy makes reference to some callers' comments. And then the very, very last paragraph of this very lengthy article says, Colors Cayman has demanded an immediate and unreserved apology by the commissioner for such an inexcusable, failure of judgment. Now they have that in quotes. So if that, mind you, the word demanded isn't in quotes, but it does say has demanded, and then in quotes, an immediate and unreserved apology. Now, I don't know if Billy or Colors Command demanded it or simply asked for it or how that goes, but that is quite a strong word. I would not have used such a word, given that it seems like what is happening here is the commissioner is simply saying that the headline that Wendy Ledger used gave the impression that he was trying to say that hate speech against the LGBT community is not criminal. And that isn't exactly what he said. So, like I said, if I were Billy, I would have generally made some comments about hate speech against his community, but I don't know that I would have demanded an apology from the commissioner, because then what you have are responses like this, where other people say they need to go lock his dumb ass up, but he'd probably like that. Now, we can never control how people respond to us and the things that we say and do. But sometimes saying less is actually more. And it is more impactful when you allow a situation some time. And I understand that all too well, because at the moment, I'm actually doing that with something that we recently supported that reported, my apologies, that had a lot of people in our community up in arms. And I'm saying to people, don't be so quick to judge Cayman Mar Road, thinking that we're wrong or we've gotten it wrong. Maybe you need to wait until all of the details of that incident are available to the public, because I cannot compromise my sources. But when the information is available to the public, you will then see why our story was written in a particular way and why certain things were said. And I'm just leaving it at that. I could push the envelope, but in highly emotive situations, it is often best, and I know people think, Sandy knows how to deal with highly emotive situations. Of course I do. Just because I pop off sometimes and drop a couple bombs on you people doesn't mean that I can't be completely calm, rational, and control myself, because I do it every single day. And then there are times when I think that approach isn't going to do the job, and then I pop off and I use a couple F-bombs. I'm like, whatever. So I would have had a different approach. I think in all of this, you have to see, as a member of the LGBTQ community, that the police and the police commissioner are supposed to be your allies. And every time you organize an event, not only do you have to get their permission like everyone else, but you will also be seeking to get their protection, which is part of their job. And so if the commissioner has said, listen, there is a fundamental misunderstanding or misinterpretation of what we have said to Wendy Ledger, and as a result of that, we are simply asking her to make a correction. In the event that she has not made a correction, which she hasn't, the commissioner has clarified what his position is and what he was actually trying to say. So if it's the case now where, and I know for a fact that as someone who has been charged with this offense and who have sat down in court and listened to these legal arguments, you do not technically have to sit down and say, it depends on what section of the law we're talking about here, but you don't technically have to sit down and say it directly to the individual for you to be charged with an offense. So let's take my case as a prime example. I was charged and convicted now of a Section 90 offense of the ICTA, which is very similar to this section of the penal code, but there are differences. So the wording is almost the same: harassment, distress, or alarm. And I think it says annoyance or something else as well under the penal code, that I would commit an offense if I use an ICT network to do that. And, the judge essentially said, it's not like I was sitting down having a conversation with Matthew Leslie. No one forced him to watch the show. But because those comments were in the public domain, apparently they have indeed convicted me. So it does legally, not the penal code offense, but at the very minimum, the ICTA offense, does make me wonder if I could get convicted of it. And you say there's sufficient elements of the offense here to garnish a conviction. Then I do think, and this is where I think the commissioner might want to get some legal advice on this, that the commissioner may have missed the mark, that it may not be a Section 88 offense, so Section 88 of the Penal Code offense, but it could be a Section 90 offense of the ICTA law. Because obviously these people are on Facebook, they're in a WhatsApp group, and they're using hate speech and so on, and basically making threats within the context of that group. And we know from what transpired with Mario Ebanks and the legal research that I have done is that there's no such thing as a private group. You may think your group is private, but legally, if you say it to even one other person, it is not considered private communication. And it's certainly not considered private communication when you have multiple people in these groups. So I think that it's interesting. I would want to know, and this is where Colors came in, could now go one step further. The commissioner is not a lawyer. He has I would think, a fairly decent understanding of the penal code and the criminal justice system. But there are times when, and that's why the police are not the ones who make the legal ruling on whether or not something will be taken to court. They do their investigation and they hand it off to the legal department, which is now called the DPP's office, Director of Public Prosecutions, or OPP, Office of Public Prosecutions. And those lawyers, they're trained, they're supposed to be trained. They are the ones who ultimately make the decision about whether or not charges should be laid against an individual, because they look at the facts, the investigation that has occurred. They know the definition of the offenses, and they take into consideration other cases in their repertoire. And they think to themselves, right, what has transpired here meets the elements of the offense. So yes, an offense has been committed, or potential. So arrest the person on suspicion of, and then once legal reviews the file, they say, yep, go ahead and charge them. But of course, the Crown always has to then turn around and prove their case. Now, before we get into the individual messages, good morning to Sue. Good morning, Andy. Good morning, Gina. Hi, Larry. All right, so Lisa's telling me, and Beatrice, thank you so much, Beatrice, how to say it in Espanol. So let me do my best. My Spanish actually used to be really good. I'm not trying to toot my own horn here, but when I was in high school, I studied a couple years of Spanish. And by the time I got to university, I had practiced so much that I was able to bypass college Spanish, because they're like, oh, we'd have to put you in Spanish level 3 at the university level, so you get to exempt out of it. And I was like, woohoo, save myself some tuition money, right? But let's see. So it's Feliz Dia de la Independencia, Honduras. How was that? It's those long words. You got to kind of break them down a little bit. But I think I got that one okay. Lisa says, I think we should. Clarifying, I think we should look at the hate speech the way we look at racist speech. I don't think we need to split hairs at this point. Legislation should be updated. Well, here's the thing, Lisa. I absolutely agree with you. But I think what is happening is, in this country, there is no specific legislation that deals with hate speech of any kind, whether it's racist or hate speech against the LGBT community, or hate speech because of someone's religion, anti-Semitic speech or whatever. So none of that exists as separate pieces of legislation. And this demonstrates a point that I always make, that we are, for a so-called sophisticated financial center, a lot of our legislation is woefully behind. We were talking about on yesterday's show the legislation as it relates to domestic violence and domestic incidents. So when you have legislators who do not care about these topics, which is the only explanation that I'm willing to accept and why nothing ever gets done with certain pieces of legislation, it's the same reason we can't have a sex offenders registry, because they simply don't care. And part of the reason why they don't care is some of them are involved in dabbling in this behavior themselves. So yes, I completely agree with you. And in lieu of any specific legislation that deals with these issues and lays out exactly what the offense is, how it's going to be penalized, et cetera, you will find that this exact situation that's presenting itself, where the commissioner is like, I don't know, under current legislation, if this is actually a hate crime, or if it would be covered under the penal code. Now, here's what I would suggest to the commissioner. I would actually get legal advice on this. This is not something I would allow to, because obviously the speech and the rhetoric isn't going to stop from these members of the community. We're going to get into some of those here in a minute. It will continue. They will feel that if there's no legal recourse, that they can say or do whatever the hell they want. And in my mind, that leads to a potential escalating of what certain persons will feel that they can do. It will embolden them. And I say to you, dear Commissioner Derek Burns, if you and the DPP's office can lay charges against me for a podcast speaking the unfiltered truth about someone and actually get a successful conviction, I would garner to say that the persons in this group could be charged under that same section of the penal code, of the ICTA legislation, and be convicted as well. However, this is where I need people like Billy, Noel, whoever's paying attention. The police cannot forward a criminal investigation on their own. So that falls outside of their remit. What do I mean by that? In other words, there has to be a complainant. So you have to go to the police station, Billy, file a statement as a member of that community. Now, again, there is a difference here. In my podcast, I was speaking specifically about Matthew Leslie. So they will now say, well, that still isn't directed at a specific person. And maybe this is where the tire meets the road. Because there are very fine distinctions legally that can help you win a case or lose a case. Now, you guys know I'm intending to appeal my case. I've still not. When was the judgment came down? It's been well over a month. We were told that we would have the written judgment in a couple of days, and we still have not received it. And there's supposed to be a sentencing hearing coming up here shortly. Still no written judgment, folks. That's just how the court system works. They'll give it to you at the last minute and expect you to be prepared, or they'll come back and say, oh, well, this is a reason why we will now delay it, when the parties are sitting there waiting on the court and the judge to provide the written statement. Nonetheless, don't allow me to digress here. So the point is, because no individual, but I would test the waters. Now, this is where I would put some energy. Billy and Colors Cayman, instead of going to, Luke Cayman Mall Road, CNS, and making this a public debate, go to the police and say that you wish to file a report. The police can't deny you the right to file a report. You can file a report about anything. So you file your report. You've got all the evidence there, which we're going to go through here in a second. and then allow them to send that file to the DPP's office and get a ruling on it. If it ever goes to court or if it's elevated to that extent, we'll see then where it goes from there. So Lisa, thank you for confirming what all of the acronyms or the letters now mean. So pansexual, which I didn't know was in there, transgender, genderqueer, queer, intersex, agender, asexual, and ally community. Okay. The list just keeps getting longer, but okay. Thank you, Kizzy. Kizzy says, free Sandy from this bullshit. Thank you. Hashtag. We need to do a campaign on that, Kizzy. Hi, Paul. Thank you so much for tuning in. All right, so let us look at what is causing all of this contention and hoopla in the community. Good morning, Miss Janet. So I was not aware that this group actually had a Facebook page, Caribbean Cause. So I'm going to look that up really quickly and see if I can find the page. I don't know if it's a public page, if it's a private page. So let me just have a look and I'll be able to tell you. Big shout out to the folks tuned in on YouTube. Right now we've got 9 people, not as many as Facebook, but hey, we appreciate it. Every single person counts. So there's a couple pages called Caribbean Cause. There's one that's a group, it looks like, and one that is a public page. Okay. So the page, obviously I'm not joining the group, I think is what they're referring to because this has the battle horn thing at the top. So they're attacking, they posted something 2 days ago about Joe Biden saying that LGBTQ rights will be his #1 legislative priority. And there's some questions there. Somebody commented, the gays already have rights. They just want more rights than others. Well, we can certainly talk about that here in a second. So it's so funny because this group posts a lot of stuff about the Democrats. So they're obviously not only anti-LGBTQ, but they're also Trump supporters based on the comments that I've seen. So it claims that DNC in meltdown as multiple Democrats face child sex probe from some website called newspunch.com, which I'm willing to bet is some ridiculous website that does not work in the truth. So they talk about how pedophilia is the next sexual orientation to be normalized and granted civil rights. And this is where these people wish to go with their thinking. So everything they post is, they have another one here entitled, Is Pedophilia a Sexual Orientation? Where they say that the LGBTQ, quote, love is political movement, is setting up and adding P for pedophile. Since for them, love is love, there could hardly be a problem loving children or animals for that matter. For the moment, however, their focus is on the P for pedophile. This is what they claim. So lots of misinformation here. Obviously just supporting their one position. So anyway, they've got a picture here. Story in Gay Star News. Cayman Islands now have same-sex partnerships, but battle for marriage equality goes on. So there's some international coverage of that decision back on September the 7th. And then they have a story here in Luke Cayman. Someone commented, this page is a pack of hate. Anyway, so that's their agenda. I mean, I guess pages can be created to forward any kind of a position. I don't see anything. I mean, the entire page is obviously sharing articles that support their contentions and so on. But let's have a look at what was circulated in the WhatsApp groups, because I think this is where now we need to see a little bit more. Good morning, Dean, and good morning, JD. JD says most people who post in the Caribbean Cause group or page aren't even residing in the Cayman Islands. Yes, I don't think it's necessarily, I don't know who the administrators are. They only have 282 people that like the page, so I wouldn't worry about it. The phone number associated with the page is an 876 number, which is, we know, is Jamaica. And we know that Jamaica has a horrible reputation of how they treat the community. I see only a few of my friends have liked it. There's Darna Dilbert Parchment. She has liked it. And two other friends. Let me see who those two other friends are. Edwin Walton and Myra Swaby. So thank God, out of the thousands of Facebook friends that I have, only two have liked it. Let's have a look here, folks, or three, at what we've got going on. So there were conversations back and forth within this community, this WhatsApp group, about a number of different things. I want to have a look at some of the things here that they were saying. So what I find so interesting is at one point, they actually say, and this is where I'm confused, right? If you are supposed to be a Christian and Christ-like, there is certain behavior that you should be engaging in, and there are other things that you should not be engaging in. So I would certainly not expect you as a Christian to be lying, cheating, trying to deceive people, or even being hateful towards other people. That would not be Christ-like at all. So when they make suggestions, here's this person. Let me just see if I can pull up the name. This one says Philip, is that Gums? Says that he has been informed that Chantel Day and her partner and their gay attorney, which I'm pretty sure that they have attorneys from, I think it was Ben Toner's law firm, correct me if I'm wrong here, that took their case forward that are not gay at all. But anyway, he says their gay attorney will be strategically present at the debate, which, by the way, they were not there. So that was all a lie. What about if 5 people, 2 men and 3 women, I don't know the relevance of that equation, but whatever, were to sit together along with an attorney, in quotes. Again, why is that in quotes? It sounds like they're trying to be deceptive, but whatever. And a placard saying, we polyamorous welcome the DPB, which was the Domestic Partnership Bill. Now it's called a Civil Partnership Law, because we have human rights too. A picture display of the passage of such rights this July the 3rd in Somerville, Massachusetts, could serve to rule out attempts to disregard the group. All right. So here is a Christian group who is suggesting and stating that we should be deceptive in our position. We should lie. And I want 2 men and 3 women. I don't know why it couldn't be all women or all men, or I don't know what the logic is behind that particular combination. Sit together along with an attorney. Does that mean the person wouldn't really be an attorney? I'm confused. But let's have up a picture saying that this word always gets me, polyamorous love, which is where you believe in more than one partner, is something that we believe in. So this is where you've seen it before. A man might have 2 wives, 3 wives, and so on. It can also be women who have more than one partner. So this is called lying, folks. I don't know how else to really get to the crux of this. But what this person is suggesting be done is to lie and be deceptive. Let me think about that, Philip Gums. What does the Bible say about liars, cheaters, and fraudsters? I do believe it's pretty clear. Philip goes on to say, sounds kind of crazy, but it would make a more forceful statement than verbal arguments would. Why is that, Philip? You admitted that it sounds crazy, but I'm going to tell you straight up. Not only does it sound crazy, it actually is crazy, sir. And anyone who engaged in that sort of behavior, especially during the debates in the Legislative Assembly, would have to be crazy. That doesn't just sound crazy. It is crazy. It's deceptive. It's a lie. And he says the reasoning why is basically their verbal arguments are not enough. Isn't that amazing? So the verbal arguments are not enough to make the points that they are seeking to make. Really? Okay. Mm-hmm. Then the crazy and illogical thinking continues. Well, there's no stopping them, says Philip. If we give them rights for 2 people to marry, how could we say no to 5 persons not to marry each other? And it's that kind of thinking that is illogical, and I want to demonstrate why here now, right? So people will tell you it's a sliding scale. The second you allow same-sex marriages, same-sex relationships, same-sex partnership, you have opened Pandora's box to everything under the sun. This is what they want you to believe. But some of these same people are people who believe in medical marijuana. And when you say to them, are we going to legalize you, taking a hit of heroin? No, that's ridiculous. Well, that's the same kind of logic and thinking that you are utilizing with the LGBT debate and the LGBT community. There's absolutely no difference. So if you were trying to tell me that in the one sense, we can legalize something very, very specific, legal medical marijuana, and that does not open up Pandora's box to every single drug in the world being legal, then explain to me how that same logic doesn't apply to the LGBTQ plus community. So if we legalize same-sex unions, same-sex marriages, that does not mean we're legalizing pedophilia. It does not mean that we're going to legalize 5 people getting married, people marrying their dogs, and all this other ridiculousness. It's just amazing how they wish to tie and string things together. The gay community has an agenda, they say. Well, it looks like to me that this portion, and I want to use this very, very carefully, of the Christian community, and they have called themselves Cayman, you saw the heading of this group, Cayman Caribbean Cause. These are all local people. that these individuals have an agenda of their own that is extremely dangerous and disturbing. But it doesn't stop there. So not only are we going to lie and do all these other things because our verbal arguments are not forceful or convincing enough, let's see what else we're suggesting. So Matthew, and I understand this young man's name is Matthew Rice, makes the following suggestion. Everyone reading this, I trust you have a good weekend. I found a way in which we can control the thumbs rating on CNS, and he puts that in bold letters. I think this will cause them to go into a bit of confusion. To see Bishop Sykes' comment reach 100 in 1 hour. And then he tells you how to do that. Well, okay then. As I recall, folks, the last time I checked the Bible, it does say that cheating is against biblical principles. My goodness. So if cheating is against biblical principles, do explain to me how you can justify teaching people, and I don't know how accurate this is, but how can you justify teaching people how to manipulate the Keyman News Service count system? So this is like where you get the thumbs up, right? So I don't know, like I said, how much this Matthew fellow knows about this sort of thing, but this is what he says. It's all fictional, but knowledge is power. So pretend knowledge is power, Matthew? Fictional, you just make stuff up and that's okay? You clearly don't have the support that you think you have in the community, or you would not need to be suggesting to people that when Pastor Sykes makes his comments of mostly hate speech against the community, that you're not getting enough likes for that. So here's a way to manipulate and cheat the system. Why would that be necessary? You claim that we're a Christian community and everyone is on board with the way that you're thinking. People are supporting your agenda. This is why, folks, I maintain my position that the vast majority of people in the Cayman Islands, and I mean Caymanians to be clear, because we're going to talk about that here in a second, do not support this hate towards the LGBTQ community. None at all. Not only do we not support it, but we are flabbergasted at the individuals who continue to say and do the things that people like Matthew are doing. And he talks about, oh, there are other filtered search engines, blah, blah, blah. So deception, cheating, lying, giving a false appearance, all those things are okay and acceptable by these so-called Christians in our community, but heaven forbid the LGBTQ community has anything in terms of human rights. Atlas, welcome to the program. Atlas must have fallen asleep on us. I think Atlas is back in the UK actually, so it's later on in the day there. JD, yes, thank you very much for that analogy. Implying allowing two adults to be in love will lead to pedophilia or polygamy. is like thinking that eating turtle meat would lead to cannibalism. It just is a far stretch. Like it really, really is. But that's the logic that they use. So, yes, it's actually 876 is Jamaica area code, but they have their own WhatsApp group, which is where we're taking these messages from. So we do know that all of those individuals appear to be local. Yes, JD, he's telling people how to manipulate the CNS website. Lisa, I'm not sure why that would be. That would be a Facebook issue. Good morning, Marshall. Thank you so much for tuning in from the Carolinas. Kizzy says there's a name for them, hypocrites, so-called Christians with a heart full of hate. Let's look at a little bit more because it does get a bit more interesting. Now, here is another comment from this group where Katina Anglin, and remember, she's the one now who claims that she's going to be mounting a legal challenge against the governor. Many persons have said that she is wasting her time and other people's money because it certainly would not be her money. She has a law degree, but she thinks she's a QC now. So she says, oh, look at this. I spotted Kenneth Bryan at Full of Beans speaking to this gay lawyer. What does she say? I observed them for a little bit while they're laughing and enjoying each other's company. Then I decided to take the picture. Whoa, OMG. Heaven forbid that people could sit down and laugh and enjoy each other's company and nothing untoward is going on. But she thinks it's okay to spy on people. They're in public, so I guess technically it's not spying. Taking their picture, and I took the second one as I was driving out. This is when you have no life, folks. You're going to sit there and watch people for a little while. Oh my God, Kenneth laughed with this guy. What on earth? Huh. Okay then. Yes, Kizzy, if you're in public, which this would have been a public space, there is no law, and let's admit it, CMR takes pictures of people in public all the time. So there is no law against taking pictures of people in public spaces. What is bizarre about this is the reason why she's taking it, and the reason why she felt that she should spend even a minute of her day sitting there watching two adults having a conversation and then making observations about what it is that they're doing and their behavior. That is what is peculiar about this. Yes, Karen, seriously. That's the kind of time that she has on her hands. Crazy, right? Am I the only one who's like, these people are batshit crazy? All right, doesn't quite stop there. We go on to see that this Christian group, who normally would not be supportive of Muslims or anything that the Muslims have to say or the Quran, are now saying that the Muslims have the solution, that they have it right because they treat them as criminals. So it says the noble Quran calls them criminals. They defy the true rule of law, God or Allah's rule of law, which is against nature. And if this was this is in relation now to something that Pastor Sykes said. And Pastor Sykes believes that children's minds will be influenced. So Matthew then says, if this was a Muslim country, they would be out by the thousands. No writing love letters. How can you make a sexual behavior a human right? Well, Matthew, you're woefully confused because that isn't what has been made a human right. These people need to educate themselves seriously. So he's saying that doing it the right way, taking it through the court system, writing letters, protesting in that way, those are love letters, and that's not how we must do it. And Matthew, someone shared this picture of him. I was trying to remember where I knew him from. And so I sent out a message in my WhatsApp group saying, who is this young man? Like, his face looks familiar, but I can't place it. And then I was reminded that he actually works for government. Now, this is shameful on so many different levels. He is a civil servant that works for, get this, he used to work for immigration, and now he's with the Cayman Border Control Unit. Wow. And I'm sure in his job, I don't know exactly what he does over at CBC, but he probably has to come in contact with people from all walks of life. And this is what he has to say, that he likes the approach that Muslims are taking. He goes on to say, let me pull up this one. This is him continuing. Now, this is where it gets crazy. And this is the most concerning comment of all. Indeed, maybe hang one or two of them. Now listen to what this man says here. Hang one or two of them, of course, in a loving way. And then he puts that little eye like, yeah, right. It will just be a statement. And then everyone goes home. Well, okay, that's not grammatically correct. And have lunch. The evil is gone. Simple. I like Muslims a lot. So Christians and non-Muslim people often associate the Muslim religion with violence. We claim that they are violent individuals and they do the most violence and they blow up planes and all kind of stuff. And normally you don't find Christians believing in that level of violence. But here we go. On this topic, everything is okay, including suggesting that you hang one or two of them in a loving way. Now, let me understand how you murder someone in a loving way. How do you hang people in a loving way? This is lynching, is basically what that is. And that is the most egregious form and insulting form of taking someone's life, and it has some historical implications. You just lynch them like a dog and leave them hanging. And he's okay with that. This is a civil servant, folks. Matthew is suggesting violence against people. He says we do it in a loving way. Like I said, I have no idea how you kill someone in a loving way. Then he says it will just be a statement, and then everyone can go home and have lunch because hanging people, killing people is so normal that after you do it, you go home and you have some lunch. It's not a big deal. The evil is gone, he says. Simple. I like Muslims a lot. Folks, this is alarming, right? Absolutely alarming. It's disgusting, actually. And Matthew, for you to claim that you are a Christian and that you are somehow putting forward God's word and you are the authority on what is right and wrong, when you have not only suggested that people abuse a CNS system, find a loophole, etc., you're also now telling people that it's okay to go out there and kill others, hang them, and then go about your business like nothing happened. Wow. That's quite sick. Disturbing. They go on then to talk about how other people in the churches who are not speaking up, and I've said this before, you guys know I've actually said this more than one occasion, that these individuals are a minority group who just happen to be very, very vocal. And so they even say amongst themselves. Now, I saw some messages deleted here. I don't know what those messages are about. Deleted from Nicholas Sykes. Matthew deleted 2 messages. And someone named Margaret then says that there are too many. There's so many pastors that have spoken up, according to her, but still too many laid back and afraid. So if you're laid back and not speaking up on this issue, in Margaret's viewpoint, you are a coward. You are afraid. Could it be, Margaret, that they just don't agree with you? And although they're Christians and members of your churches and they're pastors, as you have said, and they're part of your congregation, that they don't want to ruffle any feathers and tell you that you're being a hateful Christian and you need to get a hold of yourself? Could that be why? Not that they're afraid? There are other messages, and I must say that what disturbs me about this group are some of the members who are in it. What do I mean by that? Well, let me just go back to see if I can find this one here. Let me just see. So this one talks about, and this has been an ongoing issue where they want you to believe that the persons who are in this community, who are pushing this agenda, are the expat community. So this has been a lie from day one, that this is an expat issue. Oh, Caymanians don't care about this. Caymanians have always had rights in this country, or we've just left them alone. And they seem to think that Caymanians are okay with not having any rights, being denied their rights as long as they're left alone. And what they mean by left alone is, well, we don't hang you yet. We don't beat you up in public if you know your place, right? So there's certain things that we don't do to you. We just leave you alone. But, to be left alone, you've got to tread the line. Interesting. And so part of that discussion has been, well, this is not a fight for Caymanians. Caymanians are not the ones who are putting this agenda forward. This is the expats. So I'm trying to pull up another screenshot here where this person says, yes, people who put forward this are un-Christ-like and try to teach it to the congregations. They should be thrown out. So again, we're going to throw people out of church because they do not agree with us. And it goes on to say that they have a big LGBT community of foreigners here, and they soon come out of their shells, as they call it. I'm pretty sure that's not what they call it, but okay. By the end of the month, we will see. They're planning a fundraiser, I believe, on the 29th. The person who made this comment, her name is Rena. I was trying to see if I could bring this one up for you guys. Now, the interesting thing about Rena, here it is Rena is the aunt of Chantel Day. Now, this is shocking because, my God, if your own aunt can make such assertions about you, your aunt who has, or your community that you're part of, your aunt who has known you your entire life, and in fact, according to my sources, was supportive of her niece when she was outwardly who she is, which is a gay woman, all of a sudden changes once her niece starts to ask for some level of equality. So her own aunt is in this, saying that it's the foreigners, it's the expats to blame. Now, I'm not sitting here saying that this makes any sense to me. This is not a foreign expat conversation. There are Caymanians, as we saw last week, who were on this program, I think it was on Monday of last week, who have left this jurisdiction away from family, friends, elderly grandparents, the whole 9 yards, simply because they do not want to be treated like how Matthew is suggesting that they be treated. So this is not an expat agenda. This is not something that the expat community is pushing. In fact, Noel said last week, let's remember his comments, the irony of this whole debate is that in law, the expat worker here in the Cayman Islands already has the necessary protections to bring in their same-sex partners because that was already changed. Remember that immigration situation? Someone was looking to put their partner on their work permit as a dependent, and the government said, no, 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 no. And the court said, Erks? Really? So then they changed it. Yes, we'll allow your partner to be on your work permit, no problem. A Caymanian who's in that same situation, who's here, who does not require a work permit, if they were to bring a partner from overseas, that partner would have to come in on a visitor's permit and continually renew that visitor's permit. So there's no equality. They can't be added to, because they have no work permit, to be added on as a dependent. So it actually disenfranchises the previous situation before the civil partnership law was passed, disenfranchises Caymanians specifically. That is why they're asking for equality in law. Now, are expats part of the conversation? Of course they are. Because there are a lot of expats who have lived abroad, they've lived elsewhere, and they're looking at this thinking, why all the hate? Why does this continue to be such a contentious issue in the Cayman Islands? Marshall says, so when, since a straight guy and a gay guy having a conversation, anything strange? Is something wrong with some people? What is this world coming to? Well, in their heads, everybody is conspiring against them. And they're the ones with the agenda, Marshall. So that is why they look at two adults having a conversation and their heads have to go in a totally different direction with that. Yep, it's crazy. They said it sounds crazy. It is crazy. Yes, always picking and choosing. So we have hate, murder or suggestions of murdering someone, calling people cowards, spying on people, supporting the Quran, which ordinarily I wouldn't say anything wrong with that, except we know that these same people wouldn't do that for anything else that's in the Quran. Cheating, manipulation, lying, all of these things have been suggested in the context of just a few screenshots. Now, here's the irony of it. There is obviously someone in their group who is there who does not support what they're doing. That's why they took the screenshots, folks. And that's why it was leaked outside of the group. Or if you are in a group of 5 people, 10 people, 100 people, and this group has been formed for a specific reason, which as we can see, it's a hate group, and it's all about spewing hate on individuals, then there obviously are people who are members of that group who don't share your opinions or your extremism, your hate. And that is why they have screenshot these conversations and shared them outside of your group. I think whoever the group administrators are, that should be a clue for them. They should really get a clue that maybe you don't have the kind of support that you think. So JD says one of the same people, she put up a screenshot of, makes bold assumptions about my sexuality because I defend minorities. Apparently you can't be straight and defend your friends at the same time. Yes, JD, I have that same issue apparently. I'm K-Man's biggest lesbian, I guess. So, yeah. Kizzy, nope, we don't spy on people. There's no secret mission. In fact, most of the pictures we get, we don't even take ourselves because we ain't got time for that. Thank you. Big shout out to everybody who's ever supplied us a photo, a video. We love it. But this is, you know, the reason why this is being done is crazy. All right, Marshall. I don't know anything about this young man. Like I said, I don't even know who his connections are or whatever, but I think the comments are disturbing to say the least. And this is why I can sympathize with K-Man Colors K-Man, as to why they would be upset to know that there are people in our community who are thinking this way and who are feeling this way. But unfortunately, like I said, I believe they are a minority. You cannot prevent those people from thinking the way in which they do. It's a sad reality. Now, if they decide to act on any of those thoughts, because again, like I said earlier, legally, there's a threshold here that should not be permitted to be passed. And there are times in law when you can think whatever the hell you want. Thinking something isn't in and of itself a crime unless there's some actions that go with it. And sometimes the actions could be saying something, vocalizing something. So Karen says people just need to respect each other. There's no need to understand, just respect and let people live their lives. No one is judging their religious beliefs. Well, we wouldn't be if their religious beliefs were so hyper-focused, if they were not so hyper-focused on this one particular topic. And if they were not engaging in behavior that is un-Christ-like, but yet they want to claim that they are the experts on what is Christ-like. So I wholeheartedly agree with you, Karen, except there's definitely, oh, Margaret. So I wonder if that's the, wasn't there Margaret in some of these comments? Maybe that's his mom. Ah, okay. So there is a Margaret in the group making comments. Right. Maybe. I mean, I don't know. Yes, Kizzy. And that is why I think Colors K-Man and others in the community have said that this isn't right and it's concerning, it's alarming. We've never been a community that has been violent towards the LGBT community. And now you get the sense with people like Matthew saying that violence against them would be okay, and not only okay and totally acceptable, but so acceptable that after committing such an offense, you would just go out and have some lunch or whatever. That blows my mind. Like, it really does. Rena, Chantel's aunt. I mean, really? That's gotta hurt. I mean, regardless of where you stand on this issue, To know that someone who's known you your entire life knows the type of person that you are. And then this, it's got to be hurtful. I would be, but what can you do? It's unfortunate. And I can only imagine, I mean, Chantel's parents have been very supportive of her. And so I can only imagine that this has caused a rift with the relationship with them and her aunt, because that would be her mom's sister. I mean, I would not have any time or respect for someone who was hating on my child or the community that she's a part of. Nosa, what a hot mess. So we have a special treat for you this afternoon at 3 o'clock. I want you guys to tune in live. I can't tell you what it is because it's a treat. So the only way you're going to know is to mark your calendars from now. 3 p.m. We got something special that we're going to be live streaming. So please tune in for that. Yes, Kizzy, we can counter all of that negativity and hate by sending love to every member of this community, of the LGBTQ community. So Chantel, you've made so many of us proud as a woman to stand up for your rights in a country that is so male dominated is not easy. To stand up in a country that has so much hate, some people, in their hearts, we know has been challenging and has not been easy. But Chantel continues to be a shining light. She is a mother. She is a partner, a life partner, hopefully. She is a lawyer. She's a productive member of this community. You know, she's not harming anyone. She's just trying to live her best life. And we all wish that for you, no matter what. And we want you to know that there are a lot of people here in the Cayman Islands who are supportive of you and supportive of what you have been able to do and what you've been able to accomplish. This has been no easy feat. Trust me. For sure. So, yes, send me a WhatsApp message there, my friend. I'm definitely curious to see what additional information you've got for me. It's crazy times that we are living in, good folks. Crazy times. Lizette says, good morning. Hello, honey. Thank you so much. You have a wonderful day as well. So let us turn to a little bit of politics. Congratulations to Kathy Ann Wilkes, who has declared that she will now be putting her hat back in the ring for West Bay Central. Now, West Bay Central has been dominated by Captain Eugene Ebanks for the better half of 16 years already. He's in his 4th term. So Kathy is, she has a law degree. She's legally trained. She's a paralegal. For over 12 years, she's worked with the Law Commission. And I would like to take my hats off. We've got at least our first female who has now announced that she will be running. So this is a bit of good news. Kathy, congratulations. Now, what I will say is Kathy ran last time against Captain Eugene. And to be honest, for a newcomer that a lot of people didn't know, she did well. He only won by, get this, 93 votes. And also, I want to remind you guys that Kathy also kind of came out at the last minute. So she came out at the last minute. She still did extremely well. Now she's getting a bit more of a head start. I think last time a lot of people didn't really know who she was. They were like, who is this Kathy person? Well, this time you're going to know her name. Her name, folks, is Kathy Ann Wilkes. She is an Ebanks. I'm going to put the link here in the post so that you can familiarize yourself with who Kathy is and what she stands for. And we'll be getting to know her. I can't wait, actually, to have some conversations with segments with Kathy. So we will definitely get to know her. Melita says, yay, I love Kathy. I think Kathy has a lot to offer, and the people in West Bay Central should look carefully at Kathy. Yes, indeed. It would be nice if some people, Sue, would gracefully bow out, gracefully retire from public office. But as we know, grace and politics don't go hand in hand necessarily. So retirement is something they seldom do. I think in my mind, Kirk Tibbetts is one of the few members of the LA that I can think about, certainly since I've been back, that has retired from public office. Wasn't voted out, wasn't kicked out for scandal and all these other things. He said, okay, I'm hanging my hat up. I've had my turn. Let somebody else take the reign. Wouldn't that be nice if more of them actually did that? But they don't. And that is why we need to have term limits. That should be something we should consider. So Melita says she is a Bea. Yes, she is from the beautiful district of West Bay. So congratulations again to Kathy. Both Sweens Bea at that. Melita would know because she's from West Bay. Hello, Barbara. So there's the link. Read up on Kathy. I think her story is a little interesting. We have a segment here now. Of course, we are in the thick of election 2021. And so, what are we talking about? Well, good folks, election 2021 means that you guys need to get ready because we are going to be voting and trying to make some better decisions, trying to vote people into office who will get the job done without all the hate speech and hateful rhetoric. So congratulations again to Kathy. This is our new segment. It's called On the Trail, Election 2021, and this will be our CMR coverage of the candidates, the upcoming election, and the whole works. Nice. So Sue is saying we need a young, fit person for Savannah now. Hallelujah. Morna, women going to run the country soon. Congrats to Miss Wilkes. That's the way to go. Well, we need some new women because the ones who are in there are woefully in need of refreshing. They don't speak out on any women's issues. Trust me. The Speaker of the House beats up a woman and they have nothing to say. The women in the House are lips sealed. Not a word. Kizzy says yes to term limits. And can we throw in legalizing recreational marijuana while we're at it? Marshall says yes, most of them don't want to go out without a fight, even in their old age. Isn't that sad? All right, good folks. Anywho, thank you guys so much for tuning in today. I've got to check the court list to see what a won in court. Some interesting things happening. And we do have some court news stories to update you as well. When we cover cases and then things develop, we don't want to not update you when things change, right? So I think it's important that we kind of keep some continuity, because people always go, I remember you saying this person was arrested, they were charged. There's a big debate online about whether they did it or didn't do it, whatever became of the case. We like to keep you informed. Someone just sent me a private message saying, hope she's not linking with Tara again. That's the reason I didn't vote for her last time. I hope someone knocks Tara out this time. Disgrace to us women. Tara Rivers, who's the only female representative. Bye. Looks like you got some problems, mama. You might have a campaign issue on your hands. What a hot mess. Oh, Lord. Oh, boy. Somebody's messaging for help this morning. Another mismanagement of a government entity, government-run business, and people are begging for help. What a heat. Well, what can I tell you? Except we will do our best to assist. I'll message you back in a second. Randy. Oh gosh, Randy is here. Now, Randy wants to start up a conversation that's unrelated to what we're talking about, but we did address this last week about his brother who recently passed away. Well, like I said, there's sometimes you've got to wait for the full story to come out. All right, folks, that wraps it up for us today. I think that's all we've got. We will be working on a few other things, without a doubt. Let me see. Yes, Kizzy. So make sure you guys mark your calendar for 3 o'clock. This is a nice treat. I think you guys are going to enjoy what I've got coming for you at 3. So spread the word. Tune in at 3 o'clock. It's a special little treat for you guys. I'm going to try to schedule it and see if I can run it then from one of the devices. It would either be the iPhone or the iPad, but if we schedule it, then that way you guys will see that there is a surprise that's actually coming up for you. So I'll see if I can do that. Sometimes Lizette says, no comentarios, Sandra. It is better. Yes. I enjoy allowing people to be on this platform and to comment, but sometimes people think that they can jump in on the live and say some crazy stuff. I'm pretty sure most people know precisely how to reach me. Everybody claims they want to sue. Sending a letter to us is the easiest thing in the world to do. I would only say to make sure you know what we know and make sure you've got your facts straight. That's the only thing I'd say to those persons. All right, good folks. Again, I appreciate the love and support. 3 o'clock. Today is also Tuesday, which means that we have an evening segment at 7. I'm thinking maybe we could discuss some of the reopening. So we did an article of the weekend on the device, the bracelet that will be in use. So why don't we go through some of those details to see what is planned for the soft reopening that's going to happen here in a couple days on the 17th when the BA flight comes in. And then we can take it from there. Yeah? Beautiful, my good folks. Thank you again. I will see you at 3 o'clock and then again at 7 p.m.
Thank you for tuning in to another edition of The Cold Hard Truth. Make sure to check Facebook for showtimes and more information and the latest news at CaymanMarlRoad.com. Subscribe to our IG and Facebook pages to get the latest happenings.